No, coming off a bye weekend, I think for us as a team, as a group, was a good weekend to have off and just reflect on a couple of series that we had after the new year, and looking forward to the challenges every time we play Minnesota as they come in Friday night and Saturday afternoon. We had an outdoor skate, but we didn't get a chance to skate as a team earlier last week, and had a number of people come out, actually more people than I anticipated coming out and signing autographs. Bucky was there and enjoyed that evening, and so we look forward to the challenges. To me, it's really becomes a 10-game season. Everybody within our league has to play everybody, and whoever does the best in these 10 games is going to be in a position to move on and be in a better position than the other teams. So it's fun, it's exciting, and it's almost like a playoff atmosphere this last month of the season.
Todd?
When you had a bye the first half of the season, that came off of the Minnesota series. You had a bye off of that loss, but Bemidji, that spending a little extra time sitting on those weekends, do you sense a little bit more of an edge out of your players from having to kind of relive those for a little bit longer than maybe they would have if they got to play the week right after them?
I think the thing about the games you play is, generally you do a bunch of good things, and other times within that game you have areas where you can improve on. And the most important thing is when you dissect and look into those areas, what do we need to do tomorrow to get better? And so obviously when you lose, and you want to learn a little bit more about why it happened. And I think, after we lost our second game of Bemidji, sitting in the locker room and talking with the team, it's about this understanding that if you're going to be successful, you got to play 60 minutes. I mean, if you're willing to do that, you have a chance to be successful. It doesn't guarantee it, but you have to play 60 minutes, and you have to understand little things within the game, the little detail parts, and do those little things well. If you don't do it, then you run the risk of falling behind or losing. And in that game, which we ended up losing, there were things within that first period that we weren't doing well, and all of a sudden you fall behind. Move some things around. The second period, got ourselves back in the game, but we didn't play a full 60 minutes. And so you walk away, you start practice on Monday, and that's the first message. Are we willing, and do we understand that we have to play 60 minutes? And if we learn from that, that's good. And so we'll find out Friday night if we learn that, even though it was a while ago. Usually when you lose, for coaches, you have a bitter taste in your mouth and you want to play the next game. When's the next game? Oh, it's not for 2 weeks. That sucks. So, that's a nice thing to be a pro athlete. You're playing 3 or 4 games a week. So if you lose one game, you got a game either tomorrow night or the next night, and you can feel better about yourself. So the players, you have to ask the players how they feel, but that's how the coaching staff looks at it. But my big thing is to try to get them to understand the ingredients and the things that they have to do when they go out and try to execute. And if they do that, they have a chance to be successful. So we had good practices last week. People were paying attention to things, and I'm just anxious to get going here Friday night.
Alec?
Hey, Mark, back here. I'm sure you knew Gerald Watts was a good player when she transferred here, but is it almost unheard of just how good the numbers she's put up through 3 quarters of this season right now?
She's done well. I mean, her transition, not only on the ice but off the ice has been very, very impressive. When you come into a new school and new roommates, new structure, new classes, new environment, new teammates, she adapted very quickly, very well, and has done a great job for us on the ice. So, we're very pleased, and hopefully it continues.
Todd?
Continuing along that line, Sophie Shirley, her first year set her up so well. Her second year is pushing it a little bit farther. It seems like the ceiling is really high up there for where she can get, doesn't it? And what puts her in that spot? What kind of background or what is in her that keeps her moving and pushing herself forward?
I think just trying to find 1 or 2 areas within the next game that she can improve on. And so, the coaching staff talked to her about, what she could do Friday night in Bemidji. She went out and did those one or two things really well, and now I consistently do that? Can I do it again Saturday? And she was able to do that. So now it's just building on a couple little things that helps her game. Obviously, her skill set is extremely high. She's very good with a puck. She's an explosive skater. She's a good passer. And so, we're just trying to work on a couple things and keep her focused on a couple of those things that, makes her game better. And so she's had a couple of games now back-to-back that she's done those things very well, and now it's going to be Friday night trying to do the same things. So with her, it's just, consistent from shift to shift and game to game.
Todd. Or Brian.
This weekend in St. Louis, the AllStar Game, and they're featuring a women's 3-on-3 game on Friday night, and 7 of the 20
I was
players.
hoping to get the invite to play
Yeah.
3-on-3. I think I could handle that right now.
I'm
That'd
sure
be
you
good.
could. You got a game on Friday night you got to worry about. But
Although Decker was out skating with us last week a couple times, and she moves around still pretty good, so I don't know. I have a tough time catching her, but it would be fun.
You'd be all right. But that says quite a bit about the program, but also the players that have been invited to that, the ones that used to play here for you.
Yeah, it should be exciting, for the players involved, but for women's hockey, and I'm sure there'll be clips, if not live coverage of it on TV, and so I know the players will be excited. I'm just anxious to see the goaltenders. So you got Ann Renee at one end, and you got Rigsby at the other end, and what they're going to do. They may, Ann Renee may come out of the net and start skating the puck down the ice and try to score for her. To make it entertaining, but it's a credit to those players. They continue to work at their game. They're playing at a real high level, and as we saw Ken DeCoyne last year and Decker last year involved in the skills competition in the All-Star Game and do very well. Another opportunity for those young ladies to expose the game.
When you played Minnesota back in November, it seemed like they were able to do a pretty good job keeping your top line maybe away from the good chances. Do your players, big players, take that as a challenge now to come back and say, we can be better than that. We can, have more of an impact on the scoring sheet?
Yeah, I think, even individually, from our game up there Friday to Saturday, we were better just because of that understanding of, if you're going to beat this team, there's certain things you have to do. We get back to all these little things, but, if you're not willing to compete at a high level and you're playing against an elite team, it's going to be real challenging and difficult. And, as we talk in our business, if your good players are good, then you have a chance to be successful too. And so I think individually, whether, you're one of our top lines or somewhere in the middle or wherever you are in the depth chart, it's got to be an understanding that everybody's got to be able to come to the game and give it their best and, play at a real high level. And if you're able to do that, then the chips are going to fall where they fall. But if I'm one of our players, from one game to the other and I didn't have a good game, and I'm going to get myself rolled my sleeves up a little bit farther and come out that next game and, try to execute at a higher level. The big thing, especially with our upperclassmen, we're coming down the home stretch of the season. There's not much hockey left to play, and so, my big thing in the coaching staff is you get everybody excited to play the game. They know how to play it. They just got to go out and be free and not worry about anything other than enjoying the game and playing at a high level.
Coach, back here, you've got a lot of kids from Minnesota and Wisconsin, but you have a lot that aren't. Do you have to educate them on the rivalry with Minnesota and all? And if so, what do you tell them?
I don't need to tell them much, as far as prep and getting the players ready to play this weekend. There's obviously some things we'll do on the ice, but as far as getting them excited to play, usually the upperclassmen, will send that message to the other players. And I think what we've seen over the last, few years here is I think our group gets excited to play out in front of the home crowd. I mean, our crowds have been big. We had, almost all sellouts last year. This will be, I think the rest of our season, our games are sold out. So one more opportunity to go play in front of a full house. And obviously when the other team's got the Minnesota jersey on, I think they get a little bit more excited about it.
George.
Coach, what's the edge you've seen from your team, preparing this week that it is the border rivalry? They're back at home after a month off. And, of course, when you guys were at Minnesota, you weren't able to leave with the win.
Well, hopefully we're a better team than we were, that part of the season. But, no, it's just, doing little things this week in practice to, get them to understand what they're going to be playing against Friday and Saturday and a feel of what the competition will be like. And, then it's just a matter of working on things that we normally work on and hopefully make some strides in some areas that'll help us be successful.
Anything else for Coach Johnson? Yep, George.
And Coach, Alexis Mauermann, of course, a member of your national title team last year. Her brother Ross won a national championship at Providence in 2015. Do you know how special that is? And, that while you see your players making history for that family, that they made history, both winning national championship in the same sport?
Oh, that's tough to do. I mean, he was the captain of the team too in Providence when they ended up winning the national championships, and so, it's unique that they were able to do it at two different universities. But if you look at the way they play, they're very similar in their style of play. Very aggressive, tenacious on the puck, extremely high in the competitive part of our game, and have had success. And so they're great students. They're wonderful role models for your program. And so kudos to their parents. They raised a couple great kids and obviously wonderful hockey players.
And what has Alexis meant to this program through her past 4 seasons here?
Well, I think, being one of our captains this year just, gives an indication of what the respect she has from her teammates. You look at some of the goals and some of the production that she's had over the course of her career and scored a lot of big goals for us. But, with her, it's about how she, plays the game, does a lot of things the right way, a great student, and so she's a great role model for other players on our team. And, if you had 20 of her, we'd have a lot less stress in our world as coaches because, like I say, she gets up and she does everything the right way, and we're certainly going to miss her when she graduates here in a couple months.